3 scary true horror street ories animated. It happened in 2017 in a quiet town just outside of Denver, Colorado. I was 16, working the night shift at a rundown gas station off the highway. It was the kind of place where the lights flickered, the radio cut out for no reason, and after midnight, the only thing moving outside was the wind. No one ever came in this late. Until that night. At 2 a.m., a man walked through the door. He moved slow, like he had all the time in the world. He had short, dark hair, a clean-shaven face, and a faded blue jacket that looked too light for the cold. His boots were heavy, leaving faint scuff marks on the old tile floor. Something about him felt off. I was behind the counter restocking shelves when he stopped right in front of me. He didn't look at the drinks, the snacks, or even the register. Just me. His eyes were pale gray, almost colorless. "You shouldn't be here," he said. His voice was calm, too calm. I forced a laugh. "Well, I work here, so..." I meant tonight. Before I could respond, headlights flashed through the window. A car swerved into the parking lot, tires screeching against the pavement. The driver's side door burst open, and a girl barefoot, wearing pajama shorts and an oversized hoodie, stumbled out. Her name, I'd later learn, was Emily. She spun around, wild-eyed, her breath coming in sharp gasps. Then she ran, straight for the gas station. "Please," she choked out, slamming into the counter. "You have to help me." I turned back to the man, but Daniel was already gone. Emily clutched the counter, her hands trembling. Her breathing was uneven, like she had been running for miles. Her eyes darted around the store, searching for something for someone. Outside, the wind had picked up. The empty road stretched into darkness. No cars, no movement. The man from before, Daniel, had vanished. No sound of the door opening, no footsteps. Just gone. I reached for my phone under the register. Emily's voice cut through the silence. "Don't call anyone." Her tone was sharp, desperate. She shook her head, stepping back. I could see the panic in her face, but also something else. Fear of something bigger. "You need help? They're watching..." I paused. My fingers hovered over the screen. "Who?" Emily pressed her lips together like she regretted saying anything. She grabbed a pack of gum off the counter, her hands shaking as she fumbled to open it. She wasn't dressed for the cold, her bare feet red from the pavement outside. I glanced at the parking lot. Her car sat at an odd angle near the pump, the driver's door still open. It wasn't running. "How did you get here?" Her breath hitched. The gum slipped from her fingers, falling to the floor. "I didn't drive." My stomach twisted. The road outside was empty. The nearest building was a mile away, a closed diner with flickering neon signs. If she hadn't driven, how did she get here? The bell above the door chimed. I turned, expecting Daniel. Instead, a second man stepped inside. Tall, broad shoulders, dark clothes. He didn't hesitate. His eyes locked onto Emily immediately. She stiffened. Her fingers dug into the counter. I caught the faintest shake of her head. "Don't say anything." The man walked forward, slow, deliberate. He stopped at the counter, standing too close. His eyes flicked to me, assessing. "You seen anyone come in here?" His voice was deep, steady. I knew lying was useless. He had already seen her. Just her. I nodded toward Emily. She stared at the floor, her hair falling over her face. The man studied her, then turned his attention back to me. "That car outside, it yours?" Emily sucked in a breath. I kept my face neutral. "Number..." The man didn't move. I saw his fingers twitch it aside. Something small, metal, a blade. "You sure?" I swallowed. The store was empty. No security cameras. No witnesses. The gas station was too far from town for anyone to hear if something happened. Emily finally spoke. "He knows." Her voice was barely above a whisper. The man's expression didn't change, but I saw the shift. His stance tightened, his breathing slowed. I glanced at the exit. If we ran, we wouldn't make it far. The road outside led nowhere. Just empty highway, open fields, and the mountains beyond. The man turned toward Emily fully now. "You need to come with me." She didn't move. Not again. The lights flickered. The radio on the back shelf hissed with static. A deep, low hum filled the store, vibrating through the walls. Emily looked at me. "Don't let him take me." Then the power cut out. The store plunged into darkness. The hum in the walls grew louder, vibrating through the floor, the shelves, my chest. I took a step back, my fingers brushing against the cold surface of the counter. The man didn't move. His silhouette stood motionless against the faint glow of the streetlights outside. Emily's breathing was shallow. Then, a sound. A soft scraping, like something being dragged across the tiled floor. Not footsteps, not voices, just that slow, rhythmic scrape. The air felt heavier, pressing down on my lungs. I reached for my phone, but the screen was black. No signal, no light. Emily whispered, barely audible, "He's here." The man stiffened, his head tilted slightly, listening. For the first time, his expression changed. Not anger, not frustration, something closer to recognition. He turned toward the entrance. The scraping grew louder. The glass doors should have shown something outside, but through the reflection, the parking lot was empty. The streetlights flickered. Then they went out. For a second, nothing moved, just silence, thick and absolute. Then a knock, slow, deliberate, on the glass. Emily flinched. I felt the blood drain from my face. The man, still unmoving, shifted his weight slightly, his fingers flexing at his sides. The knock came again. Not rushed, not impatient, just waiting. I swallowed. The man exhaled, a slow, measured breath. Then he turned back to Emily. His voice was lower now, quieter. "You can't stay here." Emily shook her head, stepping back. "You don't understand." I didn't know what to do. My mind screamed to run, to leave them both behind, but my legs refused to move. Then the door opened. Not pushed, not forced, just unlocked. The air shifted, colder now, thick with something I couldn't name. The scraping had stopped. Outside, the parking lot remained empty. The street beyond stretched into nothingness, the distant mountains barely visible under the clouded sky. I turned back. The man was gone. Emily grabbed my wrist. Her grip was ice cold, her nails digging into my skin. "We have to leave, now." My pulse pounded in my ears. The exit was open, but every instinct told me stepping outside was the worst possible choice. Something waited. I looked at Emily. She was already moving, pulling me toward the door. The air outside was still. No wind, no sound, just the vast emptiness of the highway. She hesitated at the threshold. Her fingers tightened around my wrist. "If we run, we don't stop." I nodded, barely breathing. Then we stepped into the night. The asphalt was cold under my shoes. The gas station, once dimly lit, now looked abandoned, swallowed by the night. Emily's grip tightened around my wrist as she pulled me forward. We ran. The highway stretched ahead, empty and endless. No headlights, no traffic, just the road, disappearing into the dark. My breath came in short gasps, the chill of the night seeping into my skin. Behind us, the gas station doors remained open. The man was nowhere to be seen. The silence pressed down, unnatural, as if the world beyond the station had ceased to exist. Emily didn't look back. Her pace was steady, her footsteps barely making a sound. She knew something I didn't. The air was thick, heavy. My chest tightened with every breath. The wind didn't move, yet a pressure surrounded us, pushing in from all sides. A mile passed, maybe more. The road signs were blank, no town names, no directions. My legs ached, but stopping felt impossible. Emily finally slowed, her breathing controlled, measured. She glanced over her shoulder, her face pale under the weak starlight. "We need to get off the road." The desert stretched around us, a vast emptiness. No buildings, no shelter, just the occasional silhouette of twisted trees, their branches reaching toward the sky like broken fingers. There. She pointed toward a small dirt path leading away from the highway. It was barely visible, cutting through the dry grass, disappearing into the hills. I hesitated. The road, as unnatural as it felt, was at least visible. The path was something else. Emily moved first. She stepped off the pavement, her form swallowed by the darkness beyond the headlight's reach. I followed, the crunch of gravel beneath my feet the only sound in the stillness. The path wound through the landscape, uneven and narrow. The temperature dropped. My breath curled in the air, the cold biting at my skin. Then I saw them. Faint footprints, barely noticeable in the dirt. Fresh. Not ours. Emily saw them too. Her pace slowed. She knelt, pressing her palm against one of the impressions. He's ahead of us. Her voice was calm, but something in her posture changed. We kept moving. The hills rose around us, blocking out the distant lights of the highway. The silence deepened. Even our footsteps seemed muted, absorbed by the ground beneath us. Then the path ended. A clearing, surrounded by trees. At its center, a structure. Small. Wooden. A cabin. Old and weathered, its windows dark. Emily stopped. Her breath was steady, but I could feel the tension in her stance. He's inside. She didn't knock, didn't call out, just stepped forward, the door creaking as it opened. The wooden door groaned as Emily pushed it open. The cabin smelled of damp wood and something stale, like old air trapped for too long. Dust floated, in the dim light, from the open doorway, settling over worn furniture and warped floorboards. Inside, the space was small. A single room, a table, 2 chairs, a bed against the far wall. No electricity, no signs of recent use, but the footprints outside had been fresh. Emily moved first, her steps silent. I stayed by the door, scanning the room. The table had scratches carved into its surface, deep and jagged. The bed was unmade, the blanket stiff with dust. A closet door stood slightly ajar near the corner. Emily stopped near the table. Her fingers traced the scratches. They weren't random. They formed words. Help me. Each letter uneven, like someone had carved them in a hurry. The air pressed against my skin. Heavy. Wrong. Emily didn't react. Her eyes moved to the closet. A slow breath. Then she stepped toward it. I wanted to tell her to stop. The space was too quiet, too still. But the words never left my mouth. She reached out, fingers brushing the edge of the door. It swung open, with barely a sound. Empty, just darkness. No shelves, no belongings, just a hollow space. She didn't move. Neither did I. Then I noticed it. The floor inside the closet. The wood was different, newer, as if it had been replaced. Emily crouched, pressing her palm against the boards. They shifted slightly under her touch. A trap door. She didn't hesitate. Fingers hooked under the edge, she pulled. The wood lifted with a soft creak, revealing a narrow opening. A ladder descended into darkness. The air that rushed up was colder, stale, like something had been waiting below for a long time. Emily met my eyes. Then she climbed down. I followed. The ladder led to a tunnel. Narrow. Cramped. The walls were rough stone, damp and uneven. The passage stretched ahead, vanishing into shadow. The only sound was our breathing. Then a whisper. Faint, indistinct. Ahead of us. Emily's pace didn't change, neither did mine. The tunnel sloped downward, the air growing colder with each step. The whisper came again. Closer. Words. Just sound. Then the tunnel opened into a larger space. A single bulb hung from the ceiling, flickering weakly. Beneath it, a chair, and someone sitting in it, not moving. Their head was tilted forward, hair covering their face, wrists bound to the chair arms. Emily stepped forward. The figure didn't react. She reached out, brushing their shoulder. The head lifted slightly. A breath. Then the bulb flickered out. Darkness swallowed the room. The weak bulb overhead had died, leaving only the distant hum of something unseen. My breath felt too loud. Emily was next to me, her body tense. The shape in the chair hadn't moved, not since the brief lift of its head. The air was stale, cold, the scent of damp stone mixed with something metallic. I reached for my phone, fingers clumsy in the dark. The screen lit up, casting a faint glow. Emily did the same. The figure in the chair was a woman, head tilted, eyes hidden beneath matted hair. Her wrists were bound, rope digging into skin. Emily hesitated, then moved closer. The woman's chest rose and fell slow, shallow breaths. She was alive. I stepped around the chair, shining my phone light toward the room's corners. Stone walls. A rusted pipe ran along the ceiling, dripping. No doors, no windows. The only way in or out was the tunnel behind us. Emily reached for the rope, fingers working at the knots. The woman stirred. A faint noise escaped her lips. Not a word, just sound. The ropes loosened. Emily eased them free. The woman's hands slipped from the chair arms, falling limp to her sides. She didn't move. Then, slowly, she lifted her head. Her eyes met mine. Something was wrong. The pupils were too wide, swallowing almost all of the color. The whites, barely visible. Her lips parted. A whisper. Not words. Not a language I understood. A chill ran down my spine. Emily took a step back. The woman's head twitched. A slow, unnatural jerk to the side. Then another. Her mouth stretched open, but no sound came. She moved fast. Too fast. Her arms shot up, fingers clawing at the air. Emily stumbled back. I grabbed her arm, pulling her away. The woman stood, the chair scraping against the floor. Her body swayed, limbs moving wrong. Then the lights flickered back on. She was gone. The chair was empty. Only the ropes remained, coiled on the floor. The air felt heavier. Emily turned, eyes darting to the tunnel. We needed to leave. I didn't argue. We moved fast, retracing our steps. The tunnel felt longer, the air colder. A sound followed us. Not footsteps, something else. A scraping noise, like nails against stone. Emily reached the ladder first, climbing fast. I followed. As I pulled myself up, I glanced down. A shadow stood at the bottom, motionless, watching. Then the trapdoor slammed shut. The trapdoor rattled. Emily's breath came fast, her hands gripping the edge of the opening. My own heartbeat pounded in my ears. We were back in the house. Dust swirled in the dim light, the wooden floor beneath us warped with age. The basement entrance gaped open, a dark void leading to what we had left behind. Something shifted below, a whisper, barely audible. Emily took a step back. I reached for the door, pulled. It slammed shut. A muffled thud came from beneath, then silence. Neither of us moved. The weight of the air pressed against my chest. Emily's eyes stayed fixed on the floor, as if expecting something to rise. We had to leave. We turned toward the hallway. The house stretched before us, quiet, too still. Faint light seeped through the boarded windows. The front door was ahead. We walked fast. The floor creaked beneath our steps. Dust particles floated in the light. A shadow flickered at the edge of my vision. I didn't look. Emily reached the door first, fingers grasping the handle. It turned easily. The door swung open. Outside, the air felt wrong, the trees too still, the sky dull, colorless. I glanced back. The house stood silent, the trapdoor no longer visible. Emily exhaled. We stepped forward. The ground shifted. The world tilted. The house remained. But the road was gone. The town was gone. Only an endless stretch of gray surrounded us.